Have you ever wondered why some people seem sharp but stay stuck, while others quietly rise, adapt and shape their own future? Why two people with the same education, the same chances, and the same struggles can end up in completely different places? The answer is not talent, it is not luck. It is not even intelligence in the way most people think about it. It is the level of intelligence they operate from every single day. From a young age, we are taught a narrow definition of intelligence: grades, degrees, fast answers, high scores. But life does not reward the smartest test taker. Life rewards the person who can think clearly under pressure, learn from pain, control emotions, and grow beyond old patterns. Real intelligence is not about how much you know. It is about how you use what you know when it matters most. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Most people never question their level of intelligence. They assume it is fixed. They assume they are just like this. But intelligence is not a label. It is a process. It evolves as your awareness evolves. And the moment you become aware of how you think, you begin to change how you live. Think about your daily reactions, how you respond to stress, how you handle failure, how you treat people who disagree with you. These moments reveal far more about your intelligence than any exam ever could. Intelligence shows up in silence before a reaction, in patience before a decision, in discipline when motivation disappears, and in the courage to admit, I still have more to learn. Psychology tells us something powerful. The brain is not static. It rewires itself based on how you think, what you focus on, and what you repeat. This means your current level of intelligence is not your ceiling. It is your starting point. The danger is not being at a low level. The danger is staying there without realizing it. Many people confuse confidence with intelligence. But confidence without awareness becomes arrogance. Others confuse knowledge with intelligence. But knowledge without application becomes useless weight. True intelligence is the ability to see clearly, choose wisely, and act intentionally. It is the ability to pause instead of explode, to reflect instead of blame, to grow instead of repeat the same mistakes. As you listen to this, something important is happening. You are already stepping out of autopilot. You are questioning how you think. That alone places you ahead of where you were before. Awareness is the doorway. Without it, growth is impossible. With it, transformation becomes inevitable. This video is not about judging yourself. It is not about ranking people as better or worse. It is about understanding where you are, so you can decide where you want to go. Every level of intelligence serves a purpose. Each one teaches a lesson, but only if you are willing to see it. Here is why this matters. Your level of intelligence shapes your future more than your past ever could. It determines the quality of your decisions, the depth of your relationships, the size of your vision, and the peace you feel inside when life becomes uncertain. Change the level, and everything else begins to change with it. Most people live their entire lives reacting, adapting, and surviving. Few people rise to the level of conscious creation, not because they are special, but because they are intentional. They learn how to think before they act. They understand their emotions instead of being controlled by them. They choose growth even when it feels uncomfortable. As we move through the 5 levels of intelligence, you will begin to recognize patterns in yourself, in others, in the world around you, and with each level you will gain clarity. Clarity brings power. Power brings choice, and choice is where freedom begins. If you stay until the end of this video, you will not just know which level you are in. You will understand how to move forward. You will gain insight most people never pause long enough to receive. This is not information for entertainment. This is insight for evolution. So take a breath, let go of labels, and stay open. Because the moment you understand how intelligence truly works, you stop living on default, and you start living by design. Once you become aware that intelligence operates in levels, a subtle shift begins inside you. You start noticing patterns you once ignored. You begin to observe how people respond to life, not just what they say about it. And this awareness often reveals the first and most common level of intelligence most humans experience. This level is driven by reaction. At this stage, life feels like something that happens to you. Emotions lead, logic follows later, if at all. Decisions are made in the heat of the moment. Words are spoken before thought steps in. Regret becomes familiar, yet the cycle repeats. This is not because people at this level are weak. It is because they are unconscious of their inner world. Reactive intelligence is ruled by emotion. Anger decides before reason arrives. Fear chooses safety over growth. Ego protects itself at all costs. Psychology shows that when the emotional brain takes control, rational thinking shuts down. Survival becomes the priority, not progress. This is why people at this level often feel exhausted. Constant reaction drains energy. At this level, blame feels easier than responsibility. External events are seen as the cause of internal pain. When something goes wrong, the mind searches outward. Someone else is at fault. Life is unfair. Circumstances are cruel. And because the cause is believed to be outside, power is also placed outside. This creates helplessness without realizing it. Many people remain here for years. Some remain here for life. Not because they choose to, but because no one ever taught them to pause. No one taught them that between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space lies choice. Without awareness of that space, reaction feels automatic. Reactive intelligence also seeks instant relief, short-term pleasure, quick validation, immediate escape from discomfort. The brain is wired to avoid pain, and at this level, discomfort feels dangerous. Growth is mistaken for threat. Silence feels uncomfortable. Reflection feels unnecessary. Distraction becomes the default, but here is the deeper truth. This level is not something to be ashamed of, it is the foundation. Every human begins here. Reaction is natural. Emotion is human. The problem is not being here. The problem is never realizing you are here. There is a hidden gift in reactive intelligence: pain, frustration, repetition. These experiences are signals. They are messages asking for awareness. When the same problems appear again and again, life is not punishing you. It is teaching you. But lessons are only learned when they are observed. Psychology reveals that the first step toward growth is self-observation without judgment. The moment you catch yourself reacting, instead of defending the reaction, you create distance from it. That distance is intelligence beginning to wake up. You stop being the emotion. You start witnessing it. At this level, most people believe their thoughts are facts. If they feel angry, someone must be wrong. If they feel afraid, danger must be real. But feelings are signals, not commands. They point to something within, not always something outside. Learning this changes everything. Reactive intelligence keeps people busy but not fulfilled. Active but not intentional. Loud but not clear. Life feels like noise. Yet beneath that noise is potential waiting for structure. Energy waiting for direction. The breakthrough moment often comes after exhaustion, when reacting no longer works, when anger no longer solves, when blame no longer comforts. That moment of quiet frustration is powerful. It is the moment the mind becomes open to another way of living. If you recognize yourself here, that recognition is not weakness. It is progress. Awareness means you are no longer fully trapped inside reaction. You are beginning to stand beside it. And from that position, growth becomes possible. This level teaches one critical lesson. You cannot control life, but you can learn to control your response. And the moment you realize that, intelligence begins to evolve. When a person realizes that reaction alone keeps them trapped, a quiet shift begins. The noise inside starts to soften. The mind no longer wants chaos. It wants understanding. This is where intelligence begins to adapt. At this level, people start learning from experience. Pain is no longer ignored. Mistakes are no longer repeated blindly. There is an effort to adjust behavior based on outcomes. Life is no longer happening only to them. They are beginning to respond instead of react. Adaptive intelligence is about survival through learning. People here ask different questions. What went wrong? How can I avoid this next time? What should I change? These questions signal growth. Psychology shows that when the brain links pain to reflection, new neural paths are formed. The mind starts updating itself. At this stage, discipline begins to appear, but it is fragile. Motivation comes in waves. When things are calm, progress happens. When stress rises, old habits try to return. This is because adaptation is still tied to comfort. Growth is allowed, but only within safe limits. People operating at this level often become skilled at adjusting to environments. They learn social rules. They read situations better. They know when to speak and when to stay quiet. They begin managing emotions instead of being completely ruled by them. This is a major step forward. However, adaptation has a hidden trap. When survival becomes the goal, growth can slow down. Comfort zones expand slightly, then harden again. The mind learns how to cope, not how to lead. Life feels more stable, but not deeply fulfilling. At this level, many people build decent lives. They find routines that work. They avoid major mistakes. They learn what not to do. But they rarely ask, what am I truly capable of? They adapt to the world as it is, instead of questioning how it could be. Psychology explains this well. The brain prefers predictability. Once it finds a pattern that reduces pain, it tries to repeat it. This creates safety, but it can also create stagnation. Growth requires discomfort. And at this level, discomfort is still something to be managed, not embraced. Adaptive intelligence also learns through observation. People begin noticing successful behaviors in others. They copy habits, they follow systems, they improve through imitation. This is powerful but limited. Copying can improve results, but it cannot create originality. Emotionally, this level brings more control. Outbursts reduce. Regret becomes less frequent, but internal conflict may increase. There is a quiet sense of knowing there is more. A subtle dissatisfaction, not with life but with potential. This dissatisfaction is important. It is not negativity. It is awareness maturing. It is the mind realizing that adaptation alone cannot lead to mastery. That survival is not the same as purpose. Many people stop here because life becomes manageable. Bills are paid. Relationships are stable. Pain is reduced. From the outside, everything looks fine. But inside, something feels unfinished. The mind wants clarity, not just comfort. The key lesson of this level is responsibility. People here begin to understand that their choices matter. They see patterns between action and outcome. This awareness builds confidence. Not loud confidence, but quiet trust in one's ability to adjust. If you recognize yourself here, understand this clearly. You are no longer asleep. You are learning. You are evolving. But adaptation is only the bridge, not the destination. It prepares the mind for deeper thinking. The moment you stop asking, how do I survive this? And start asking, why does this work the way it does? Intelligence begins another transformation. And when that question appears, the mind is ready to move beyond adaptation and into understanding. When the mind grows tired of simply adjusting, it begins to search for meaning beneath the surface. Patterns are no longer accepted as they are. They are questioned. This is where intelligence shifts from coping to understanding. At this level, thinking becomes intentional. People no longer move only based on habit or emotion. They pause. They analyze. They ask why things happen, not just how to respond. Life stops feeling random and starts revealing structure. Analytical intelligence is marked by self-awareness. The mind turns inward with curiosity instead of judgment. Thoughts are examined. Beliefs are challenged. Assumptions are tested. This is powerful because psychology shows that most limitations live unchallenged inside the mind. When questioned, they lose control. People at this level begin to see cause and effect clearly. They understand that every action has a consequence and every habit shapes identity. This awareness brings responsibility to a deeper level. No longer just, what should I do differently? But who am I becoming through this behavior? Emotion still exists, but it no longer dominates. Feelings are observed instead of obeyed. There is space between impulse and action. In that space, choice lives. This is where maturity begins. Analytical intelligence values clarity over comfort. It is willing to sit with uncomfortable questions. It examines failure without denial. It studies success without envy. Instead of copying others blindly, it asks what truly works and why. This level also brings the ability to plan, not just for tomorrow, but for months and years ahead. The mind starts thinking in systems instead of moments. Small actions are seen as part of larger outcomes. Discipline becomes more natural because it is connected to purpose, not pressure. Psychology explains that when thinking becomes structured, anxiety decreases. Uncertainty loses its power because the mind knows how to analyze situations instead of panicking. Control returns, not over life, but over perception. And perception shapes reality. Many high performers live at this level. They are not necessarily louder or more visible. They are calmer, focused, consistent. They understand that emotion is temporary, but strategy endures. They choose actions based on values, not moods. However, analytical intelligence has its own challenge. Overthinking. The mind becomes so skilled at analysis that action can slow down. Decisions can feel heavy. The desire for perfect clarity can delay progress. This is where wisdom begins to matter. At this level, people learn that thinking is a tool, not a refuge. Analysis should lead to movement, not paralysis. When balance is found, this intelligence becomes a powerful engine for growth. Relationships also change here. Conversations deepen, listening improves. The need to prove oneself fades. Understanding becomes more important than winning. This creates respect without force and influence without noise. The greatest gift of analytical intelligence is self-mastery. Not control in a rigid sense, but alignment. Actions match intentions. Words match values. Life begins to feel integrated instead of fragmented. If you recognize this level within yourself, understand what it means. You have moved beyond survival. You are no longer drifting. You are building. But even this level is not the peak. Understanding how things work is powerful. Understanding how people think is powerful. But the next evolution requires something more. It requires vision, the ability to think beyond the present moment and beyond the self. When analysis becomes wisdom and clarity begins to guide direction, intelligence prepares to rise again. And at that point, thinking is no longer just about understanding life. It becomes about shaping it. When understanding matures into direction, intelligence begins to operate on a higher plane. Thinking is no longer focused only on clarity. It is focused on impact. This is where intelligence becomes strategic. At this level, the mind stops reacting to the present moment and starts designing the future. Time is no longer seen as something to endure, but something to use. Decisions are made with long-term consequences in mind. Short-term comfort loses its grip because vision becomes stronger than impulse. Strategic intelligence is defined by foresight. People here think several steps ahead. They understand that today's actions are tomorrow's results in disguise. Psychology shows that the ability to delay gratification is one of the strongest predictors of success. This level masters that skill. Emotion is still present, but it is no longer the driver. It becomes data. Stress is interpreted, not feared. Setbacks are analyzed, not personalized. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" the mind asks, "How can this be used?" People operating at this level develop patience that others mistake for indifference. They do not rush to explain themselves. They do not need immediate validation. Silence becomes a strategy. Observation becomes power. Strategic intelligence also understands energy. Not all battles are worth fighting. Not all opinions deserve a response. Attention is directed intentionally. Focus is protected fiercely. This is why people at this level appear calm even under pressure. Their mind is not scattered, it is aligned. Leadership begins here, whether or not a title exists. Others naturally feel guided by those who move with clarity. This leadership is not loud. It does not demand. It influences through consistency and vision. At this level, people build systems instead of chasing motivation. Habits replace willpower. Structure replaces chaos. Psychology confirms that systems outperform motivation every time. Motivation fades. Systems remain. Failure is reframed entirely. It is no longer a threat to identity. It is feedback. Each outcome provides information. Each loss sharpens strategy. Ego loosens its grip because the goal is no longer to look good, but to move forward. Strategic intelligence also sees people clearly. Motivations are understood beneath words. Patterns are noticed beneath behavior. This creates emotional intelligence at a higher level. Empathy becomes precise, not emotional overload. Boundaries become firm, not defensive. However, this level carries a responsibility. Vision without integrity becomes manipulation. Strategy without values becomes empty success. True strategic intelligence is anchored in purpose. Without purpose, even the best plans collapse inward. People at this level begin asking deeper questions. What kind of life am I building? What impact will this have beyond me? These questions signal the mind preparing for something even greater. There is often a period of solitude here. Growth accelerates, but connections narrow. Not everyone understands long-term thinking. Not everyone is willing to delay comfort for meaning. This can feel isolating, but it is temporary. Clarity always attracts alignment. Strategic intelligence is rare because it requires discipline without applause. It requires faith in results that are not yet visible. It requires moving forward even when progress feels slow. If you recognize this level within yourself, understand the weight of it. You are no longer just improving your life. You are shaping outcomes. Your thoughts carry momentum. Your choices echo forward. Yet even here, something remains incomplete. Strategy can build success. Vision can create influence. But there is still a deeper layer of intelligence that goes beyond planning and control. When strategy becomes service and vision expands beyond the self, intelligence enters its final transformation. And at that point, the mind no longer seeks to win life. It seeks to understand it, honor it, and elevate others through it. When intelligence moves beyond control and achievement, something profound changes. The mind stops asking how to win. It starts asking how to serve. This is where intelligence becomes transcendent. At this level, identity loosens its grip. The need to prove fades away. Life is no longer a competition. It becomes a collaboration. People here are not driven by ego, fear, or validation. They are guided by clarity and purpose. Transcendent intelligence understands one deep truth. Everything is connected. Thoughts affect emotions. Emotions affect actions. Actions affect others. And others affect the world. This awareness reshapes how choices are made. Nothing feels small anymore. Psychology shows that when people move beyond self-centered thinking, stress decreases and fulfillment increases. The mind is no longer trapped in constant comparison. Peace replaces pressure. Presence replaces anxiety. At this level, silence becomes natural, not because there is nothing to say, but because there is nothing to prove. Words are chosen carefully. Actions are intentional. Influence happens quietly. People with transcendent intelligence understand others deeply. Not just behavior, but pain. Not just success, but struggle. This creates compassion without weakness. Strength without domination. They listen to understand, not to respond. Ego dissolves into awareness. Opinions become flexible. Identity becomes fluid. Being wrong is no longer a threat. Learning becomes endless. Growth feels natural, not forced. This level is marked by inner stability. External chaos does not shake the core. Loss does not destroy meaning. Success does not inflate identity. Balance becomes the default state. Purpose expands beyond personal goals. Life is no longer about accumulation. It is about contribution. The question shifts from, what can I get? To, what can I give that matters? Transcendent intelligence also understands time differently. The present moment becomes sacred. The future is respected but not feared. Regret loses its power because awareness lives now. People at this level often appear grounded, calm, centered. Their presence itself feels reassuring. Not because they have all the answers, but because they are not afraid of questions. Leadership here is not about direction. It is about example. Others grow simply by observing how they move through life. Integrity becomes contagious. This level does not reject ambition. It refines it. Goals still exist, but they are aligned with values. Success is defined by impact, not applause. Fulfillment replaces hunger. Transcendent intelligence accepts uncertainty fully. Control is replaced with trust. Effort remains, but attachment fades. This creates freedom, the freedom to act without fear of outcome. This level is rare, not because it is unreachable, but because it requires letting go. Letting go of identity. Letting go of ego. Letting go of the need to be right. Those who reach this level often say the same thing. The journey inward mattered more than the destination outward. Peace was not found by achieving more, but by understanding deeply. If you recognize even a glimpse of this level within yourself, know this. It is not something to chase. It is something to allow. It emerges naturally when awareness matures and intention stays pure. Intelligence does not end here. It becomes life itself, flowing, adaptive, present, purposeful. And the most powerful realization of all is this. Every level you have passed through was necessary. Every struggle shaped awareness. Every mistake refined understanding. Intelligence is not about where you stand today. It is about your willingness to grow tomorrow. The moment you choose awareness over reaction, purpose over ego, and growth over comfort, intelligence continues to rise.